At last, the year is finally drawing to a close, and after all of the bizarre and challenging events that 2022 threw at us, do you know what we really needed more of? Hope? Kindness? Peace, maybe? No, Pinocchio movies apparently, and how many did we end up getting? 3! 3 Pinocchio movies! In the same year! Maybe one of the biggest coincidences to ever grace the film industry. I mean, I've heard some people say, oh, there were too many superhero movies that released this year. Oh my god, why are there so many horror movies in 2022? But 3 Pinocchio movies? I mean, come on, like, is there really a gap in the market for this story that was written well over 100 years ago? I know it's common for studios to try and profit off a trend or what's popular at the moment, but Pinocchio? Really? Is there some Pinocchio TikTok trend that I somehow missed out on that warrants all of these films? It might seem strange that 3 studios decided to produce a Pinocchio movie all at the same time. I mean, the story's been around before film itself. And I don't know about you, but Pinocchio's not exactly the most groundbreaking story. I mean, it's fine for what it is and the target demographic it was intended for, but I don't know, how many adaptations do you really need? So I was having a look, and apparently there are over 30 on-screen adaptations of Pinocchio according to Wikipedia, some of them including Pinocchio, Emperor of the Night, Pinocchio in Outer Space, Pinocchio's Christmas, Pinocchio's Revenge. Wait, hang on, hold up. Pinocchio's what? Right. Okay then. Although you have to remember that the Pinocchio story is in the public domain, meaning that anyone can use it. It seems like at this point we just associate it so closely with the original Disney animated film, but anyone can adapt the story. Even I could make my own Pinocchio movie, but I mean, come on, I'm not gonna make my own Pinocchio movie. That would be stupid. Be so dumb. Although, now here's the thing, while these 3 films were released this year and are based off the same product, they are all very different adaptations created by 3 different directors who have their own distinct visions. Sometimes for better or worse.
I'm a boy and I'm alive!
So I thought it'd be fun today to check out all 3 of these Pinocchio movies. Because at this point, why not? To start the year off, we had the highly anticipated movie Pinocchio, a true story. I'm sorry. A true story? That's what we're going with? So this movie, from my understanding, was essentially a foreign animated movie that was sent over to the US, and then they were going to redub it in English, and then Lionsgate were going to distribute it. Yes, Lionsgate. Now this film probably should have just flown under the radar. The film itself isn't very good. The story's kind of bland, the characters overall aren't exactly the best role models for kids, and overall it's just not a great film. This film really had nothing going for it and probably should have gone unnoticed. Except for one clip in the trailer that just it went viral.
Father, when can I leave to be on my own? I've got the whole world to see.
This quickly brought the film to people's attention with the bizarre vocal performance of Pauly Shore as Pinocchio. Now, apart from the hundreds of fruity Pinocchio memes, I don't know how many people actually ended up seeing this film, but I thought, sure, let's just check it out anyway. But as I started to watch this film, something felt off, and it's not because this whole film feels like it has surfaced from
the fiery pits of hell.
No, something just felt wrong, and it wasn't until about 10 minutes into the film where it finally hit me.
Father, tell me, when can I leave to be on my own? I've got the whole world to see.
Hang on. Who is this guy? This isn't Pauly Shore's voice. So you're telling me that they had to redub this foreign film in English twice? Why? I could have just accepted it and continued watching with this redubbed version. I could have. Instead, I spent the next half an hour stressfully tracking down the film until I eventually found it, and I never thought I would be so happy to hear the voice of Pauly Shore.
Father, tell me, when can I leave to be on my own? I've got the whole world
Yes!
to see.
Everyone who has watched this movie has said it's not very good, and I can confirm after watching it that, yeah, no, it's not very good, but not as bad as I originally thought. The story goes that Pinocchio wants to leave his father and join the circus because he's in love with this girl called, I want to say Bella? The film focuses in on how Pinocchio is so in love with her, but the film doesn't really make the effort to flesh out their relationship because they hardly have any scenes together.
Who's there?
It's just me.
There's this whole thing about Pinocchio wanting to be normal and become a real boy because he doesn't like being a wooden puppet, but it's not really saying much when there is a talking horse, cat, and fox in the same movie. The voice acting isn't amazing, but it's not really either hit or miss. Because the film came from Russia, a lot of the dialogue doesn't actually match up with the movement of the characters' voices, so sometimes it looks kind of goofy.
Thank you, Daddy. I knew you wouldn't say no. Let's go, Tybalt! Great adventures await!
But I'm guessing the cast weren't exactly trained professionals when it came to voice acting, so I won't give them too much. Hang on, what's this? Oh, Tom Kenny voiced Geppetto, as in Tom Kenny, the same voice as SpongeBob. Oh, Tom, what did they promise you? The film's a musical, when it wants to be. From memory, there are only like 2 songs. The first is sung by Pinocchio's love interest, and it feels like it doesn't even belong in this movie whatsoever. It was actually performed really well. And the other song is the most bizarre thing you will ever hear.
The cat, the fox are guilty.
And Mangio Foco is their boss!
Put it this way, if you're going to watch this movie, first off, why? There are so many better ways of spending your time. But secondly, watch it with someone else, because at least then you can have a good laugh and just make fun of its absurdity. I watched this film alone and it nearly broke me. I'm still recovering. 3 out of 10. It can only get better from here.
Mamma mia! It wouldn't buy!
I've got no strings.
Disney remakes are notoriously hated. Every time Disney brings out one, no matter the quality, it was always going to get its fair share of hate. But here's the thing, I actually don't mind a lot of Disney's remakes. I'm not saying that they're better than the original, because of course they're not, and they're definitely not necessary, but there are at least a few good ones that I actually quite enjoy watching. Pinocchio was not one of them. This film comes from a director who has directed some of my favourite films of all time, such as the Back to the Future trilogy and Forrest Gump. In those films, you can tell he has a clear vision and passion for the story he is trying to tell, and it is shown through some of his most noteworthy work. But this film just wasn't it. It feels so lifeless, and I think that's mainly due to the fact that this film doesn't work in live action. When you look at earlier Disney animated films that have been remade, such as The Jungle Book, Alice in Wonderland, and Dumbo, they've gone to the effort to change story elements and characters to try and appeal to an audience today. Sometimes they pay off, and other times they do not.
Stop it.
The original Pinocchio came out in 1940, and apart from changing things like Pinocchio smoking a cigar or drinking beer, all of the story beats are the same, which is an issue because the original Pinocchio movie has a lot of structural problems. It doesn't really flow together that well. It's one of those movies that's like, this happened, and then that happened, and then this event occurred. Again, this was one of Disney's first animated movies, and for the most part, it still holds up pretty well, but you would think that they would change and improve these structural problems, but they don't, which seems so strange to me. I mean, this movie's premise on its own is insane. Pinocchio joins the circus and then visits an island where kids are turned into donkeys to put into slavery, and then he gets swallowed by a whale. What?
I've got it. Chris Pine. Nah, it'd never work. Don't do that.
What do we do instead?
Well, not that.
Pinocchio as a protagonist isn't very compelling either, because he's just so oblivious to his surroundings, and he kind of just stumbles into these situations because he doesn't know any better. He's just a kid. I mean, of course he doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. He is this naive kid that hasn't actually explored the world yet. It just doesn't feel like a complete story and brushes off important elements that could have made it a lot better. That being said, I did enjoy the first 10 minutes where it's set purely in Geppetto's workshop where he builds Pinocchio. I don't know, it's not groundbreaking or anything, but I did enjoy watching Tom Hanks. But even Tom Hanks wasn't incredible in this movie, and that's mostly due to the fact that he's not really working with much.
If you get splinters, I'll be there with glue. I'll take care of you.
You know, I would love to see this scene without that added CGI Pinocchio, and it's just Tom Hanks dancing around in a nightgown by himself as 30 crew are watching.
Pinocchio, Pinocchio. Holy smokey-o, Pinocchio, Pinocchio.
But speaking of CGI, it's not great in this movie. I mean, some of the sequences look really nice. I think Pleasure Island is very immersive, but some of the characters and locations just look so fake, and it really takes you out of the story. But I won't be too harsh because clearly this film didn't have as big a budget as some of the other Disney remakes that were released to theaters. Obviously, it was made just for Disney+, so I can't be too... $150 million. $150 million. Where did all the money go? This is easily the worst received Disney remake, and yeah, it's very easy to see why. I don't mind Disney remakes and I try to give them the benefit of the doubt, but this one just wasn't it. Was it better than Pinocchio: A True Story?
Some thieves are hiding gallows guests and robbing everyone.
Yeah, maybe, but only by a little bit. 3.5 out of 10. I've honestly given up at this point. 2 Pinocchio movies down, 1 to go. I don't really see how it's going to get better at this point. Let's just get this over and done with. Okay, I take that back. This film is amazing. After having watched the other 2 Pinocchio movies, I wasn't exactly positive about going into this one, but yeah, no, this film is incredible. This skews away from the traditional Pinocchio story that most people are familiar with and takes a much more darker turn, so I would definitely recommend you check it out. And there's only going to be a few light spoilers here, but if you haven't watched it, definitely do, because it is a very good film. This may be one of the darkest kids films I have ever seen. Straight from the beginning, we get the story of Geppetto losing his son, and they don't just subtly hint at it like in the Pinocchio remake, no. They full on show this kid getting bombed during the war, and then we have to watch this broken Geppetto endure the depression he feels after losing his son. There are some very heavy themes that are explored, and do kind of catch you off guard sometimes when you remember, oh yeah, this is a Pinocchio movie.
You see, I was a writer, until at long last, I found it.
That's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
This is very much a father-son story. The dynamic and relationship between Pinocchio and Geppetto is so complex and has so many layers to it, instead of it just being very surface level in terms of development. By about 50 minutes into the movie, Pinocchio's joined the circus, and I'm like, okay, yep, I'm on board with this, I know where this is going. And then 50 minutes in, Pinocchio just dies.
That was so much fun, Papa!
Pinocchio was dead.
I'm sorry, what? Pinocchio just died and got sent to hell less than an hour into the movie. I wonder if you'll see any familiar faces.
Hello? Hello?
It's just me.
When he visits hell, he meets this spirit thing, and I'm thinking, this is incredible. I mean, Pinocchio gets drafted to train in a youth camp for the war. Are you kidding me? Matched with a truly threatening antagonist who is quite menacing at times, it does just take what you know about the Pinocchio story and give you something fresh and exciting, which I love, despite the fact it can be very dark sometimes. Film Friday says that Pinocchio is perfect for the whole family. See, Disney, it's not that hard, and just seeing how good this film is makes me even more annoyed that the remake failed as bad as it did, because from this, it's clear that you can make a good Pinocchio movie in aspects that just haven't been explored yet. Also, remember Tom Kenny, who voiced Geppetto in Pinocchio: A True Story? Yeah, well, he actually voices another character in this movie. Gee, this man loves his Pinocchio movies. It goes without saying that the stop motion animation is incredible. The character design and the sheer effort that went into crafting this incredible spectacle, it really suits the dark tone the film is trying to capture. Like, there are times where Pinocchio moves in this really unsettling way, and matched with the childlike voice, it makes it really creepy. There were definitely tones of horror here. No, I'm not talking about that one. Although, not gonna lie, I kind of want to check it out. It's no secret that this man has a real passion for storytelling, and considering the effort he had to go to get this film made over a couple of decades, just for his vision to shine through, can be and should be appreciated. Stop motion animation is truly an incredible art, and we're seeing it less and less now as big studios are kind of just relying on CGI computer animation, but I do love when a film like this comes along and displays how great stop motion animation is. 8 out of 10, I am so happy we finished on a high note. Well, that's it for the Pinocchio movies that released this year. Nah, I'm only kidding. I think it's safe to assume that we are not going to see another Pinocchio movie for a very long time. I'm sorry, what's this? No, we do not need any more Pinocchio movies. There is not a demand for Pinocchio movies. Is the cast good at least? Tom Kenny? Man, this guy can't stay away from Pinocchio movies. But that is all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider subscribing to the channel and giving this video a big thumbs up for more videos like this one. Well, let me clarify. When I say more videos like this one, I don't mean more Pinocchio movies. I can't do that again. I will see you next year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Friday.